Want to find out what goes into the editing process for a short film? Follow me and find out. Let's take a look at this is the editing timeline for one of my newest short films, and I just want to kind of show you just like what it looks like, what the process looks like, um, just the kind of the kind of creative decisions that I have to make, and kind of walk you through what that looks like and assembling things, and just the kind of the structure that I have, the conventions that I use, all for the benefit of creating a creative piece. And when I break those conventions, because not only does every short film have different needs, but so does every scene in a short film. So let's just kind of take a look at the editing timeline for my newest short film, Through Fire and Brimstone. You can see that there are 8 video layers and 11 audio layers. And most of them are not getting used at any given time. I'm trying to be really efficient with the way I use overlays, and I think this is something I've been trying to be intentional about, like focus on the storytelling, focus on the footage, on the acting, on the script, and have everything else be supplemental. I don't want to have a distracting edit on a film like this. This is just something I was thinking about. I want the creative decisions to be what's guiding the interest. And there are creative decisions, and there are times where there's ways to use the edit to help tell that story in a way that is not distracting, and ways to use the edit uniquely. Let's look at maybe a scene like this. There's some kind of standard things happening during a shot like this. For instance, there's several things going on in a shot like this as as I'm establishing the scene. But let's look at the audio. Let's focus especially on that. How do I break this down? So what we have here is a mix of several elements. First off, there's a sound effect, a low impact to trigger the scene transition, a thum, just something to kind of, to have a kind of cinematic scene transition. It's kind of a punctuation, right? A very literal kind of punctuation. And then we fade in this ambient sound, which is, of course, a stock asset. And then we fade in a couple of extra elements just because this scene, this shot required ADR. And so aside from that one shot with ADR, which I think I blended really well in that shot. I'm really proud of how that turned out for this shot. But, like you go to these couple scenes and all that's happening in the audio is just trying to figure out the right volume balance of the on-set recorded dialogue and that room tone. Which of course is pulled from a different space and just has I love it because it's hospital sounds, and it doesn't completely match the space, but I think it does add a kind of coldness to the scene. This is a very cold movie. It's filmed during the winter, and I think that that's just part of the aesthetic here. And of course the music comes in, but it's only a couple elements. It's nothing too crazy. There's nothing too distracting. But there's ways to use the edit in ways that are distracting. There's this audio, from a different scene, dialogue from a different scene that comes over, kind of used as a voiceover that is totally distracting. We have these booms. Those are non-diegetic, audio elements. That in many ways, like booms like that, those cinematic impacts, they are musical elements, and you can see them as a soundtrack, an extension to your soundtrack in a lot of ways. Philosophically, I use them in that sense. But really, it's like I'm not using them while I'm composing. I'm using them while I'm editing to try to figure out the pace of the film. So really, like, they are sound effects that I'm using non-diegetically. And I think that's an interesting philosophy. Just kind of in the vein of that kind of conversation, you have part of the story of this film. If you haven't seen it yet, I do recommend you all watch Through Fire and Brimstone before watching this video. There may be spoilers, but there's scenes where my character is talking to this disembodied voice, and he looks up at the lights to talk to him. And this is just something that just comes completely in the edit. Like, it's not a dialogue scene. It's one character. Like, what I'm filming is my character talking to the ceiling, and I just have to sell it based on acting, and just the hope that if one actor can talk and you hear a reply that was recorded in post, Was it recorded in post? I may have recorded this before I even filmed those shots. I don't know actually the order, but let's say that the disembodied voice was recorded in post. Either way, it's like that's just something created in the edit. Just this whole conversation. It's not a dialogue scene, but it becomes one through post. You know, and I think that's interesting. And I think that just that kind of illusion is, I mean, I think that's true for all scenes in a way. All scenes are illusion. You know, even dialogue scenes like this, it's like these elements, these shots aren't being filmed at the same time. I only have one camera, you know, so to try to like capture this illusion of a multi-camera effect, it is an illusion, you know, because I'm shooting Mickey shots, and then I'm shooting my shots, and then I'm shooting another Mickey shot. Well, not in that order. I did all of Mickey shots and then all of my shots. But it's like they're not happening at once. Even though the edit, you know, it's structured as a conversation. The scene is a conversation. You know, it's dialogue. And so just, you know, using these scenes that are filmed separately, combining them together. And like that's basic stuff, but I use that as an example just to say that like filmmaking is all about illusions. Even at the basic level, combining things that weren't filmed at the same time to make them feel like they're recorded at the same time or a part of a continuous scene. And it just kind of all comes down to the illusion that comes with, you know, writing, tying everything together. I just think that's interesting. Let's see, is there anything else I want to point out that might be interesting about the kind of first half of this edit? You know, I kind of want to break it down. I mean, let's just kind of take a look at when I use overlays, because most of this film there aren't overlays, or even like, you know, I'm not taking advantage of the stacks, the different video tracks that I could be using, you know, because there are times where I'm cutting a short film, and I'll cut from one angle to the next angle to the next angle, and I'm just kind of stacking them because I'm not sure. Well, maybe I do want to go back to the other angle I had, so I'm just going to stack them to cut it. And you see that here, like you see I'm cutting, you know, her angle over my shot because it's like, well, you know, maybe this is a continuous shot. That might be unifying two takes, but like that's really one of the few examples in which I have a video overlay that is used as an editing tool. Let's see. This is overlays as an overlay, you know, as a transparent element to back up a shot. Just to show you what that looks like. Let's disable that. So this is just, I felt like these shots were just a little boring, but I did want them to be seen for the pace of the scene, and just because I wanted to establish these lights in this scene right before my character sees this ghost. You can see the lights taking action because they're just an important kind of visual element for when the lights talk. It just kind of gives the voice a body. And I wanted to just kind of establish like that there's kind of a quote-unquote source for the voice, something he attributes it to, something he can focus on. And I just wanted to give extra movement to that shot with this just kind of transparent smoke element. And hopefully it's subtle enough to just basically just feel like extra noise in the shot. That's all I want it to feel like. But that is added in post. There's some other elements here. I think there's this bokeh is the post element. Yeah, so I mean that's a totally different feel. This light that becomes visible feels totally different with this bokeh added that kind of unifies it with that footage of the lights. That now feels similar to this shot, and there's a cohesiveness that comes from that comes from the layering that extends, of course, to this shot. Because the bokeh is added, as well as, you know, this is a scene where a vision appears. So at the end of a shot, you know, not only are we getting the bokeh, but we're getting this element of the mask coming in. And so that just kind of becomes this vision that comes in. Or is it this element? Yeah, there we go. So that's coming in. Same here, there's some overlays where I have this visual effect shot, and I have just a little bit of smoke that is layered on top. There's some stuff like that with lens flares, of course. It's pretty basic stuff in this film. Basic editing. But like I do use those tricks, but they're not, most of the film doesn't use that. Most of it is just, here's the footage that I got in camera, and that's what's guiding the film. I want it to be a little bit more, I don't know if utilitarian is really the word I want to go for, but in a way about my edit. make sure that the story can kind of carry itself, and use the edit, to help where I can, of course. But anyway, let's take a look at this new scene. Maybe there's not as much to say, but I think it's just interesting to point out, and I still kept it all on the timeline, even though, like, this top layer this is a visual effects render. So what's under it is this might take a second to load, but what's under it is all the elements that went into that. Yeah, so like, there you go, that just loaded in. So it's like, that's what I exported out to put into Blender so that I could render it as a piece of 3D animation with a 3D moving camera. And what I like about this little scene here with the news is that it's one shot. In post, as a piece of 3D animation, it's one shot. But of course, it's made up of all these multiple shots that got exported out until it became one continuous moving shot. And I think that just kind of adds another like level of cohesiveness to the film and kind of makes it feel more intentional, as if I got a oneer, even though it's a oneer created in post. And I've done that before with Night Terror. There's a news scene in that film as well. And just kind of having this kind of trick of the 3D animated camera creating a oneer in post I just think that that's a cool way just to add some extra dimension to it, make it feel more like a piece of news broadcast, and I like that trick. But you can see that, like, this is where all my video tracks get used. Basically, it's just for these news broadcasts that just have different text layers all over the frame. So it's like that's where I'm using all my overlays. The sound isn't that complex. There's, room tone and audio from the dialogue with just a little bit of distortion applied. Nothing too crazy. Most of the sound editing was pretty simple. Just making sure everything has crossfades, trying to balance volume. I think I did all right with that. There's a little bit of, audio effects. Every now and then there's a reverb. I think that's something that helped sell the ADR, was just trying hard to match the reverb with the natural reverb of the room that the original dialogue was recorded in. Sometimes that doesn't work, and it's not that easy to get right, but I think it matched pretty well, and I'm happy with how that turned out. And of course there's reverb during like these sermon scenes as well, and that's something that I think really sells the sense of space, because these scenes are another kind of piece of movie magic as well. And, like, you could probably see through them pretty easily, but, like, it is an illusion. Like, and I think that this is just part of filmmaking, is that, like, sometimes the audience knows how something is done. Just fundamentally, they see a CG shot and they know it's CG. They know it's not real. But through the storytelling and the way you present it, you can create an experience where it's still, like, the story doesn't make you doubt it, because the storytelling takes it seriously. And I hope that that's what happens for these shots. I don't know if it's effective, but for me it's effective as an artist enough, and it works. And you can look at it and you kind of feel that, like, I know that this room, like, I can see the black sheet in the background when I look at it. There's nothing about this that suggests that this had to be filmed in a large space in an actual church. Actually, you could set this up in a corner of a bedroom. In actuality, this was the corner of a shed in a very small space. I mean, it's big for a shed, but but it's not the size of a church. And yet I'm trying to present it as if this is all happening on stage in a mega church. And a lot of what's doing the heavy lifting is the reverb on the dialogue. I think that's absolutely carrying the weight of trying to make this feel like a larger space. And so that really became huge for, I think, selling the sermon scenes. Because that's something that was like, I don't know if these are going to work. I don't know if it's going to land, and I'm just going to try to be as charismatic as I can as an actor and hope that carries a lot. And I think that, acting goes a long way, and I think there's a reason that theater works. You can see someone on a stage with simple props, and, like, if you watch a play, like, it's a play. There's no fooling the audience to think that the set is real, because you see that the stage, it's a set. Maybe someone in the cast, it's fake. And of course, when you watch a movie, it's the same way too. It's a movie, it's acting. But the standards for the illusions that you create are different, and you want to, immerse people either way. But I think ultimately it's story that immerses people. And so I think it's okay if, like, the production methods, like, you can do your best to immerse people through your production methods, but ultimately it's about the story that you tell. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Which leads me into this scene, because I guess this is my one it's not a regret of the script or anything, but it's a serious film, and then I have this CG at the end that's just, I did my best, but I don't feel like it's super realistic or convincing, and I think that could take you out of the story. To me, it's like I think the pace of the film is strong enough, and I think the CG is good enough to communicate what it needs to, but it's something that like you look at a shot like this and you know it's fake. There's no fooling you there, and I'm trying to hide it, splicing it in with actual footage, and doing my best to kind of hide the seams there, but it's all just editing, and just hoping that if I can take something recorded in one context, and splice that in with stuff recorded in a different context. This is a miniature shot, and then add CG, which was created in a different context, and hope that it can all mesh together to create one cohesive scene, which to me, like, this is the most edited scene in theory, even though, well, I guess, yeah, it probably was the scene I spent the longest on. I'm pretty sure, just in, making all the visual effects elements, putting it all together, multiple filming days just to make that happen, make it work. And it took the most sound mixing. Like if we look at, just all the soundtracks, not soundtracks, but the tracks of sound, on the timeline, most of them are being used in this scene. And there's other scenes like this only has 2 audio tracks in use. Usually there's only 2 at a time, sometimes only 1 at a time, if like the onset audio is good enough. Usually 2 or 3. I don't know. There might not be a place where there's only 1 track being used. Oh no, right here. Look at that. In this dialogue scene, there's only 1 track being used, and there's no ambience. Because I did not think that was necessary. I thought we got it, room tone and all. But then a scene like this final scene, which, this final chase scene, it's so dependent on the sound effects, especially for CG shots, which are completely fake. So it needs sound effects to, sell the idea that these are actual cars actually moving, even though they're not. But you hear the sound, you hear the police sirens, and hopefully that goes a long way towards communicating what I'm trying to communicate. That's the goal. It's all just created in the edit, mashed together. It's not necessarily a sexy edit, but I think it does the job. I'm happy enough with how this all looks. I don't know. This is something where it's like, if I had to like keep working on this, I'd organize my sounds a little more. As it is, things are a little bit just kind of scattered. And I think that's true with the edit, like especially the sound editing as a whole. It's like, I've done films before where like if I have to keep working on them for an extended period of time, or shift things around, or if it's going to take months to edit. This was actually like pretty quick turnaround. I filmed in early December and I finished the film in late January. That's relatively quick for a 15-minute short film. But there's times where in previous projects where if it's going to take longer, I would really want to make sure that like let's say this is just dialogue and this is just ambience and this is just music. And like kind of sometimes I stay true to that, but it's also just changes depending on the tracks that are available. Sometimes just that changes things. And just what other track I was working with, like if I was really zoomed in to like this track, like then like that might just be the element it ended up on. It was kind of loose with the timeline of how it's organized. So that's something like I do better in different films depending on depending on how long I'm working on it. But this was a pretty quick turnaround and I was editing it by myself. I wasn't outsourcing anything to anybody. But there is a little bit of organization here. Like usually this top track is reserved for audio that came from the camera, that was sourced from there. That's mostly true throughout this film, with some exception. And the second track, this mono track, all the dialogue is on that track. That is a dedicated audio track for dialogue that is only serving that purpose. But everything else is like not necessarily dedicated a certain way. So there are 2 tracks that are serving single purposes, and that's it. But I just wanted to kind of point that out and just kind of showcase how much I organize my edits. And I don't know, it's like it's still like it's like that feels a little messy to me, but still pretty contained overall. And like I said, just because there aren't a whole lot of elements, these are simpler scenes. They're dialogue scenes a lot of the time. so it doesn't take as much to make them happen. I don't need to worry about spaceship sound effects or whatever, like, in every scene, trying to make that work, and, little fantasy elements. And I love doing fantasy stories and where that require a lot of work in post to make them become real. But this is not that kind of film. This is basically like what we got on set is how I want it to appear in the edit. I'm happy with how that turned out, and it was kind of nice to tell a story that, like, just hopefully had just a little bit more honesty because of that, because, like, there are lies as a filmmaker that you tell, as an editor, there are lies constantly that you're telling, but there are less lies that you have to tell when you're making a movie like this in comparison to a fantasy movie where just everything has to be recontextualized and created in the edit, or fabricated on set or whatever it is. This is a film that's basically, it's not like it's not quite like filming a documentary where you could just have a camera set in a room and, like, it captures something honestly, but it's more similar to that than not, which was kind of fun to have a sense of honesty there. But anyway, I think that about wraps up everything I want to unpack in the edit. Comment down below if you have any questions. I'd love to talk more about the making of this movie, and there's a bunch of other behind the scenes material available as well on this channel. So I totally recommend, if you're interested about the process, watching more of that. And if you haven't seen the movie yet for whatever reason and we're okay with spoilers from this video, go watch the movie. I'm really proud of how it turned out, and I'm excited to keep making more. So thank you all so much for watching. Without further ado, I'll let you go.